All right, welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. God, I can't speak today. I'm your host, Cameron Honesty, joined as always by my co-host, Kenan Torres. Well, Texas A&M lost to Texas 27-17 last night in Darrell K. Royal Memorial Texas Stadium. This was the first meeting at DKR since 2010. We talked about it this week. It's been forever since we've watched A&M play in that stadium. It was the biggest game of the weekend so far. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan are happening right now, but Friday night, Black Friday, primetime game, everybody was watching.
A little nostalgia,
all of it, older Aggies, older Longhorns, all of them, the younger crowds have really gotten into this rivalry as well. A&M had a chance to do something historic, if they won this game, they'd be off to the SEC championship game for the first time in program history, likely facing Alabama or probably Georgia, I would think. But probably the worst game for A&M all year, I would say completely. We hadn't seen them play this poorly on both sides of the ball, especially in the second half, really all season. I can't really think back because you look at South Carolina, for example, that was a 30-3 deficit at halftime, but that team found a way to come back. They played perfect football in the second half on both sides of the ball, shutting down South Carolina, who didn't score a point. A&M led 10-3 at the half. Played pretty good football, I would say. I mean, it was the tone of the game. Both defenses were playing well. They had a Marcel Reed, who we will talk about for most of the show. Looked like he hurt his ankle, went down. It was pretty scary, to be honest with you. We didn't know if it was a knee or an ankle. He actually got back on the sideline, was kind of jogging back and forth, ended up returning to the game. They had a great drive at the end. It was Casey Concepcion had a huge punt return, ended up getting one of their two touchdowns on the night on an 8-yard run by Casey Concepcion. Again, they looked like they were starting to control the momentum a little bit. When at halftime, I had said that this week, talking about like they need to get a touchdown lead in the half to have a chance to pull out the win. Well, those second half adjustments we were used to by head coach Mike Elko did not come to fruition. This was one of the worst second halves we've seen from A&M. But at the same time, I think it was just a bad game. Texas played better. Arch Manning had a lot of room to operate. They did a really good job. Trevor Gooseby, I think, is their left tackle.
Trevor Goosby's awesome.
He shut down Cassius Howell. I mean, Cassius Howell had to be humbled tonight because, he's had obviously a fantastic season, 11.5 sacks, leading the SEC. Couldn't do much at all. And I mean, watching the film, Trevor Gooseby, he really helped his NFL future there tonight. Did a great job. But yeah, it is what it is. That's how we kind of look at it. A&M, in my opinion, is still a college football playoff team in terms of, I would say, we're going to discuss this, top 5, top 6 seed right now. They get multiple weeks to get healthy, prepare for whatever they're going to play. Mike Elko and his staff are going to focus on recruiting. But how I look at it is time to move on. This happened. You can cry over it if you're an Aggie fan. You can celebrate if you're a Longhorn. But this is just what it is every year. And look, I mean, Mike Elko's going to have to find a way to beat Steve Sarkisian sometime.
Hey, rivalry games just mean more.
Yeah.
And the fact that both of these fan bases are going at each other is just more spirit to the game. It's incredibly awesome to see all this. That's what the spirit of football is for. And so an incredible job by Steve Sarkisian and his staff and his players to go and be at home against a top 3 team and defend home field, right? They just simply dominated the Aggies in the second half with consistent play calling. I think that was a big thing for the Longhorns, is that their play calling and executing down the stretch really gave A&M trouble, especially on the defensive end. In the first half, the defense for A&M really showed out and was kind of getting a lot more of the physical calls or no calls their way. It was just kind of that consistent shutting down of Texas's offense at the second half that we didn't see in the second half. So I think a lot of kudos go out to Steve Sarkisian for his play calling in that second half, because it really just tore up the A&M defense, whether adjustments were made or not. So when I look back at that first half before the second half, you saw that things were already kind of being a little bit more complacent on both sides for both teams.
Yeah.
You saw Arch kind of make these overthrows because he didn't want to place it exactly in the area of the defender. But in turn, that made his wide receiver not be able to have a catchable ball. You saw Marcel Reed try and make a lot of these passes over the middle towards middle of the field throws, middle out routes, instead of getting to the quick game. And we did see a couple of quick game throws, whether it was a 5-yard curl in by KC Concepcion and Mario Craver. But I think a lot of the times, both of these quarterbacks were just trying to make it so that the other team didn't have the ball. That's really what it was. I think it was a little bit too conservative on both sides for both teams. And in a game like this, especially going into it, where even though Marcel Reed, his post-game comments said, I don't care what the Heisman conversation is, I'm focused on winning championships. I think part of it is still on people's minds of like, this was supposed to be a Heisman campaign moment where he could go in and beat your rival team on a big stage in their stadium and try and take over. I think that definitely was on people's minds. But in that second half, Marcel Reed just made a bunch of misreads and a bunch of mistakes that ended up costing them, especially 2 turnovers. The second one really in a comeback, a try and effort. But we really saw in that second half, Texas just be able to kind of pick and choose where they were going to get the ball, whether it was a first down, whether it was Quintravion Wisner, who had a great game, averaging over 8 yards a carry for them. Yeah. And that's what happened last year as well. I mean, after a great season or a great game last year with Quintravion Wisner, I think over 150 yards, 200 yards rushing last year. Yep. He went over 8 yards per carry, over 130 yards this game.
155.
155. Just a great job by Wisner. And I think that this offensive line for Texas, I think a lot of people have said it is very depleted when they didn't go into the portal this past season to get really any offensive lineman. I think Trevor Gooseby is one of their only plus graded linemen this season. And we saw it was apparent in this game up in the middle. I think Tyler Onyedim and Torian York probably had really good games, even though it's going to be overshadowed by the rest of this defense.
Yeah.
Tyler Onyedim had his way in the middle.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Torian York with Torian York had 11 tackles, a TFL, 2 quarterback hurries, and Tyler Onyedim had 3 tackles for a loss and a sack by himself. So I think that's going to be overshadowed a little bit in this game, and for good reason. But overall, when I look at the second half, these DBs that I saw, whether it was replays on the routes themselves by Jack Endries, whether it was Ryan Wingo wide open in the back of the end zone that Dalton Brooks was supposed to cover, or it was really just missed assignments, and that comes out to bad execution and bad adjustments on the play calling. And Mike Elko, like you said, took you told me pre-show he took it upon himself for those adjustments not being made, which is the sign of a good head coach, is that they realize that ultimately it comes down to them to make those adjustments. And I'll let you speak here in a second as I'm droning on and on.
Oh, you're good.
In a game like this, I think there's some inevitability to it where something had to happen to shock the Aggies to where as they go towards this playoff push, to where you're wanting to make a push for a championship type level team, that you needed a little shock to your brain. Mm-hmm. You need a little push so that come playoff time exactly how to execute down the stretch and what decisions you need to make.
Yeah, and that's perfectly said, because we can get into the X's and O's all day about this. It's a 30-minute show, so we're not going to do that. We'll talk about that more on Tuesday, but I do believe that. I think a lot of people, there's a narrative about if you lose this type of game, it's going to haunt you down the stretch. I don't believe that. I think that's crap. I think these are grown men. These are football players who understand the task at hand. Like, this isn't last year where your season was over. You lost this game. Yeah, you had a chance in 24 to go to the SC championship game, but you were already a 8-3 team. You had no shot at the CFP at large. You were going into a pointless bowl game that you ended up losing, and that really led to a disastrous start to the offseason before, obviously, things looked up. But again, what's really being overshadowed is the success they've had this season. You ended the regular season 8-1 and 7-1 in the SEC, 11-1 overall, 7-1 in the SEC after finishing 8-5 last season. Steps have been taken. Like, this program is still on the rise. It's just when you lose against a Texas team that has struggled in areas you could have exploited, especially on the O-line, where you are right. Trevor Gooseby is really their only plus player. He's really the only guy that is competent in terms of shutting down your star defenders. That is why Tyler Odienum, who had a hell of a game, had his way in the middle of the defense, had that great sack. I think it was registered as a sack on, it's just a big hit overall on Arch Manning. But this lies on Mike Elko as the defensive play caller, as not having his players in place. Arch Manning baited Dalton Brooks on that Wingo touchdown. I mean, he faked run. He saw him wide open in the end zone. That is middle school type of football. You need to stay in your assignment. They need to have a spy on Manning. They did not throughout the game. I didn't understand what he was doing there. But at the same time, Elko isn't going to tell you that. They have time to figure this stuff out. They're not going to throw this film away and move on. Okay, because they don't know who they're going to play next, right? The regular season's over. It's a wild card. You could play SMU. You could play Oklahoma. You could play Notre Dame at this point. We have no idea what their potential first-round matchup is going to be because, honestly, unless, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alabama loses, Ohio State loses, Oregon loses, maybe A&M has a chance to stay in the top four. I doubt
there's a whole lot of math that goes into it,
yeah.
and it does have to do with a lot of how the SEC championship is going to play out. So I think if you are an A&M fan and you're looking at it, you're kind of wanting Georgia to win over Alabama in the SEC championship, just because of how it all works, and a little bit of how Texas Tech plays potentially BYU in that Big 12 championship game to maybe squeeze in, and maybe a little bit of Oregon to not look as good against Washington as well. So all those things could effectively happen, but I think I'm projecting in the four to even 6 range for the Aggies heading into playoff time.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. I think they still have a possibility because they do have a good strength of schedule. No matter what people say about their resume, I don't think a lot of fans really understand resume 100%. They're looking at the records and they're looking at, and look, there's a lot of things that go into it. You have to look at how A&M has played throughout the season. They have been utterly dominant on both sides of the ball throughout SEC play. Again, outside of the 45-42 win over Arkansas, they blew out LSU on the road. They blew out a Missouri team that Ahmad Hardy rushed for like 200 plus yards the week after. They held him to just 100 yards in that game. They did everything you want to see from a potential playoff team. They just had a bad game against a rival where, to be honest, I wish we didn't live in the age of social media we did, because probably if we didn't, these guys would have played a great game. And I mean, honestly, because they didn't have all the noise coming at them, because I know that's what happened. We in the media and everybody else, we do talk about this game all year long, and especially the week during Thanksgiving. We're all with our families. We're all talking about this kind of stuff, and then we're preparing for the game. And for A&M, I get why the fan base is so down today, because it was a huge letdown, right? You had high expectations. You thought you were better than this team. But we had been saying, and I said it on Tuesday with Matthew from the Voice Culture Bowl Longhorn Network, that look, Arch Manning's playing his best football right now. Like he's playing lights out. He understands the offense. Sark and him are on the same page. He still has good players. Jack Endries, I think people forgot, he's one of the best tight ends in the portal this year. He did a great job on that broken coverage, that 58-yard catch. Look, this is just what happens when you don't adequately prepare for guys like this. This is why Arch Manning was praised, because of his ability to make plays out of nothing. I mean, you look at when he was getting sacked, he was always throwing the ball away. He's got those instincts as a quarterback. I project he's going to be a great quarterback going into next year.
Yeah.
But it's just one. But you see what I'm doing right here? I'm praising them because they played a good game, even though Arch Manning said they didn't play a great game in the second half. Like, they played an average game. They played a great game. A&M was not ready for this. They did not show up in the way I thought they'd adjust, even after holding a lead, which is kind of odd because it is more advantageous to hold a lead and then you can really just kind of start to tee off on these guys.
And
But
I think that's what it was. I think they
yeah,
were trying to hold a lead in which it was a one possession game at halftime.
yeah,
And I
maybe that
think
was it.
that was detrimental to what they wanted.
Mhm.
So when you play that kind of way, you become conservative. And
Yeah.
what this Aggie offense is not supposed to be conservative. It
Mhm.
is also not supposed to be a risk-taking offense. It has that middle ground where you are consistently making the correct play for down the field. Whether that was them trying to get this run game going, and I did see a lot of great run options for Ruben Owens that he kind of fell down for
Tricky,
a couple times, but he did
times.
get a couple of rushes where he got 5 yards, and I'm going, okay, maybe that gets this started for that rush offense. But then there were a couple of incomplete passes in a row, which led to some 3-and-outs. So that's where the complacency and the conservativeness of this kind of confuses me. Is I know they were ready to go into this game. I
Yes.
know they were ready.
Emotionally.
Emotionally,
Yeah.
physically ready, but when the adjustments needed to be made and when you were up a touchdown, that is when you should have turned on the gas, and you were not able to do that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I think now, as I'm looking back on this season, I mean, Cameron, when you and I did our prediction show
Mhm.
back in the summer, do
Mhm.
you remember what you and I both guessed what the record for this season would be?
Mine was 9-3. I think yours was 10-2, I
Mine
believe.
was 10-2, but I think at the end, what I also said, what there is a very big path for them to go in 11-1 this year,
Mhm.
and that Texas game might be their only loss.
Yeah. I mean, I was hesitant. I think I picked, but see, that's the thing. I was on the opposite of they would lose to probably LSU. They might lose to Notre Dame. I think I had both those losses, excuse me, chalked up. And I thought, if you lose those, if you have those early losses, you've already learned from those. So when you go into Texas in a rivalry game, you're going to be on the other side. You're going to be the team that's ready and has learned from your mistakes and just are going to make those necessary adjustments. They were the other team. They were the team that maybe because outside of that South Carolina comeback, which was against a lesser roster compared to Texas, I don't know. Maybe this is the wake up call they need of, okay, we can't do this same thing going into this next game, which is likely a first round game in Kyle Field. But at the same time, we had no idea that Texas's season would be this accordion, this weird, like, are they good? Are they average? Are they elite now? Like this I mean, it's giving me a headache
It's a
so
weird
far.
pinwheel type of
It
team, man.
is.
A
And
pinwheel type of
yeah,
team starts to get hot here. It just starts to
we
come
saw
down at some point.
who did we see that last year with? South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina is Texas right now. Lenora Sellers playing on his mind. Dylan Stewart, the defense. I mean, and they were 9-3, I believe, left out. Texas is the same team right now because they are hot by the definition of it. And Sarkisian, look, it'd be a disservice, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't really understand that. Maybe if it's a disservice, you beat Georgia and you don't lose to Florida on the road. Florida is a 3-win team. I don't understand that argument. If A&M would have lost to Florida and then in 93, do you really think we'd be talking about them as a playoff team right now?
Absolutely
They would
not.
have booted their butts out so quickly. So I'm not going to get into like the conspiracy theories of Texas and the
There's
media,
no
but
conspiracy theories need
it
to be.
is what it is. It's just they were the number one team preseason. They have obviously the quarterback that was the Heisman favorite to start. They have a lot of young talent on that team. A lot of people want to see Texas in the playoff. It doesn't mean they deserve to get in the playoff, but the difference there is that at 11-1 with one loss to your rival, who's a ranked team, we can talk about all the you didn't beat a team above 500 in the SEC play. Again, you just play who's in front of you. I never understood that argument with anybody, including Texas last year. But when you look at the playoff, when you look at the picture, you look at the best teams that were most consistent throughout the year, and especially in the SEC, we can always put Big 12 teams currently in the SEC, see how they fare against the teams A&M beat this year. You can always do that little exercise, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be pretty dramatic down the stretch. Wherever Texas moves up, which they're 16 now, I don't know, probably 12 11 at this point. I could see that.
Like I said, AP in previous shows, AP rankings won't correlate to playoff rankings because of how resumes work out.
Sure.
So I think that depending on how we see this next week shape up, you might see Texas move into the top 12 of the AP just because of their record. Maybe they're 12th, maybe they're 11th, maybe they're 9th. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the teams behind them, you're making way for the highest ranked or winners of the ACC and the Big 12 and all of these other conferences. You have to even fit in the G6. So that's why they're probably going to get left out, because of how teams like Notre Dame, who doesn't play a conference championship game, ends the season at 10-2. And if you put Notre Dame in, there's a whole Miami conversation as well. So I think that's why they're getting talked about being left out. We also need to see Vanderbilt versus Tennessee today. Because if Vanderbilt wins that, then they have a better strength of resume and strength of schedule, or just strength of resume. I think Texas has a better strength of schedule than they did, because of scheduling Ohio State. But I can talk on and on about how
both of us could.
I mean, going to go. I think that you and I need to have a quick discussion before we end the show on what are the adjustments needing to make over this technically bye week now, before they find out who their opponent is going to be and prepare for that matchup. Because you can prepare all you want for who you are projecting you're going to get, but you don't know until you know. So you have a full week before, not this coming up Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, probably seeing playoff scenarios. So where in your mind do they need to prepare the most for the upcoming games in December?
I mean, we can say both. I mean, both sides of the ball obviously disappointed in several ways last night. But in terms of the offense, you still have a good offensive line. They held up pretty well in pass protection. Again, this was a Marcel Reed type of game. It wasn't that he was getting pressured. Texas did blitz a couple times, and to get in his face, Reed did escape some of that pressure, but just didn't get accurate passes off. It's gonna be up to QB1 to get it together. This is big boy ball now. Like this, you cannot have these games anymore because they don't trust you. The national media doesn't trust you right now. Every other fan base is calling you fraudulent and stuff like that. You were a Heisman candidate throughout this season, and I get after the game he's frustrated. I understand 100%. I was that age once. I understand competition. You don't care. You just want to win. Well, it's going to take elite play from him, and it's going to take this team being completely healthy, which means the return of Le'Veon Moss to this backfield. He was missed immensely last night because you can still tell E.J. Smith had 4 carries for 27 yards and the second touchdown of the game. He was averaging 6.8 yards per carry. Why he wasn't getting more carries is beyond me. I don't understand. Is it a trust issue or whatever it is? Ruben Owens got a majority of the carries, 13 carries, 48 yards. He was only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. That has nothing to do with Owens' skill set. They were going against a Texas defensive line that has shut down the run for most of the season. But look, it's going to take getting that Marcel Reed, who isn't just comfortable in the pocket, but him and Colin Klein working in sync with each other. I agree with you pre-show. Like, I don't think I see a lot of people blaming Colin Klein. Again, we're going back to the whole fire Colin Klein. No, it wasn't a Colin Klein game.
I don't think I ever saw people saying fire Colin Klein.
No, I saw them doing that last year. So
I think it's a little bit changed now, where it's just what is going on.
I mean, the emotions, but at the same time, I think the game plan was what it was. I don't think it was horrible. Again, this wasn't the same game plan they had last year because they have better talent. They have obviously Concepcion and Craver at wide receiver. Those guys had average games. You know, again, this was an accuracy issue for Marcel Reed. I said, I was talking to one of my writers for the show. I said, he's just too juiced. Like, he is too hyped up for this game right now. He didn't ever really settle down. And in the second half, he just looked confused out there. He wasn't reading coverages correctly. There were guys open. I mean, if we look back on the field, there were options. And yes, he had to throw tight balls. But that's a rhythm thing, right? We've talked about all offseason. He's a rhythm quarterback that we saw in the second half against South Carolina. Whatever snapped at halftime in the locker room, he played his best ball of the season. And he was locked in, accurate, hitting on every level, at every level of the field. Explosive passes. He was dinking and dunking his way down the field. He was efficient. If you get this type of play from Marcel Reed going forward, A&M has a shot to make a run. If you get anything close to what we saw on Friday, this is a first round exit. I'm going to be honest here. That's just what it is. Defensively,
Unless it's like Tulane or Navy.
yeah. Well, matchup wise, yeah, I agree. So if it's a smaller, I think A&M's just going to overpower them. But
yeah,
if it's in Oklahoma, if it's somebody in the SEC that has really studied you and kind of understands you, we'll see. But defensively, look, the pass rush was good. It wasn't great last night. Obviously, like we said, Trevor Gooseby pretty much locked down Cassius Howell. He had his way with him, but the interior had a good day. They are going to face lesser offensive lines, I think, throughout the playoffs. I think that Texas's O-line is getting a little better this season. To be honest with you, I think they switched things up after, I forget, I think really after the Florida game. I think they were much better. To be honest, they started against Georgia, which is kind of surprising.
I think a lot of what I saw from that Texas offensive line is they're doing a less swing blocking.
Thank you. I was about to get to that. Yeah.
But if they're swing blocking, it takes a lot more time for those offensive linemen to actually get out, rather than if you're just pull blocking, where for all of my people watching who aren't in tune with what those blocks are, pull blocking is a lot easier on the offensive lineman just to kind of get out and around in front of the running back or whoever's going out in that area. Swing blocking, you have to put a lot more effort and movement into it.
Yes.
Before actually getting to your upper level blocks. So
yeah, swing's a lot of practice. Like it's a lot of dedication to that, and you have to be on point. You can't move early. A&M, I will say this about A&M's O-line: those false starts. That is killing that team in short yardage situations. You got it. I mean, I get they're one of the most penalized teams, but that killed them on a couple 4th and 1s where they easily could have converted. They were running the ball well in short yardage situations. Either way, I'm not worried about the receiving core. These guys are too quick. They are too locked in. This offense, I think, will be ready. It's just going to be up to Marcel Reed to play his best football. On defense, it's simple. Your run fits. You got to get that together. You cannot. I mean, allowing Wisner to have 100. They didn't have a 100-yard rusher all season, and then you allow him to do it. That is atrocious. I mean, I can't talk about it enough. And getting Scooby Williams back will hopefully solve that problem. Getting your entire linebacker core, getting Damian Sanford on I would say a snap count, but I would say as a important rotational guy to utilize him in pass rush, especially to get him in those 3rd down situations, utilize his speed and athleticism. That'd be great. Get Williams back as a run stopper, using his instincts on the field. You're going to have your entire coverage unit in the middle of the field back. You're not going to have issues there, hopefully. Hopefully, if you are playing a mobile quarterback, you're going to do a better job spying him because, again, Arch Manning, I did look here, I think he had just 53 yards rushing. He was averaging 70.6 yards per rush attempt. Again, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. So, but I will say this, get you on here because we got about a couple of minutes left. The secondary issues, I think those can be solved. I think
absolutely.
Though having Mike Elko at the helm, he's one of the best secondary coaches in the country. That's where he made his bones as a defensive coordinator. That's timing. That's where your eyes are. He's got 2 veterans in Marcus Ratcliffe and Dalton Brooks back there at safety who will fix those issues. The cornerbacks, for the most part, played a great game. Those broken coverages were what they were. Will Lee made a couple great pass deflections, and that Des Ricks was pretty locked down. I have to look at the PFF grades today, but I think a lot of it was just, these guys are just out of sync for some reason, but I don't worry about that unit too much. I think they will fix that. I think I'll say it again. It's Marcel Reed. He's just got to play his best football down the stretch, or this team's not going to go as far as they want.
Exactly. I think that's the point we're really trying to make here for the fans that are watching, is that it feels awful in the first 24 hours, right? And now you have to look back and tell yourself, to make yourself feel better, absolutely, that this team is 11-1 going into a 12-team playoff. Regardless, I know a first-round bye would have been awesome, and maybe it's still there in the cards. Who knows what the committee is going to think? Mm-hmm. But now what you need to have is you need to have some creative effort by this coaching staff. I think the one thing I think that not only the players need to adjust, but I'm not calling out Colin Klein. I think that Colin Klein has done an incredible job throughout this season, and he's gotten some coaching carousel rumors for it. But I think that on those first downs, from what I saw, is that he needs to be able to call more increased percentage plays. And by that, I mean that if you are calling a play that inherently has a lower percentage of putting the A&M behind the sticks of the first down, you can't give up on the running game too quickly. And that leads to players like Marcel Reed being out of rhythm.
Quick outs, get him like easy buttons. You got easy buttons. I guarantee this offense has easy buttons with the quickness they have at wide receiver, with the tight ends playing at a high level right now. If you can get him going early with those short passes, he will hit those deep passes. He will get in rhythm, and that's where you see the best Marcel Reed.
Let him connect with the wide receivers quickly.
100%.
And I think that's really all I have. Just call higher percentage plays on first down. I think that second down and third down, what I saw was great play calling, but bad execution, and then flipped on first down. I think that was really what I saw.
Yeah. I think the best thing we can say, and we'll say it on Tuesday when we're both better rested and not as busy today. Look, it's not the end of the world. No. I get it. I understand. It sucks. You hate to watch that other fan base. Like I saw one of the players stomping on an A&M jersey and dancing on it. You don't want to see that. It's a heated rivalry. Both programs hate each other. But guess what? Texas going into the week, all they're going to be worrying about is, can we get in the playoff? They're not going to care about this anymore. And for Aggie fans out there who are on the TexAgs message board spilling their feelings for the next 3 days, it's going to be okay. Your team is going to make the college football playoff for the first time in program history. Okay, that is the next step for Mike Elko. He's doing what you hired him to do. So it is what it is. We will discuss it more. We'll get into the ugliness of it, but we're going to move on after, and we will find out who this team's going to be playing in the college football playoff in probably a couple weeks from now. So, but yeah, with that, thanks for tuning in. We will be back, like I said, on Tuesday night, probably either Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night. We'll figure out the logistics.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out. But yeah, we'll talk more about this Texas game. We actually will, if we do it at night, we will hear the CFP ranking by then. It just depends. But that's going to be big because, like we said, you agree, probably 5, 6. That's where I'm really at right now. I do think they will drop a couple spots. I don't think that the committee is going to really have a moment where they just they think like Notre Dame should be ahead of them. I think they're going to look at those matchups that, A&M beat Notre Dame, so they should always be ahead of Notre Dame. So I think I think that Notre Dame win is going to do more for them down the stretch than anything else. And I think that's something to keep in mind. But these games today, again, Alabama, Auburn, Michigan and Ohio State are playing right now. If Ohio State loses a game, if Alabama loses another game, if Oregon loses to Washington, a lot of chaos can ensue, and A&M could surprisingly end up with the top 4 seed. So we will see what happens. But as always, you can follow me at Cameron Honesty on X. You can follow we don't have that up. It's at Torres Cannon, right?
Yeah, at Torres Cannon, last name, first name for this one.
Yeah, and you can follow all my work at Aggies Wire, part of USA Today Sports. Both my writers, Jared Johnson, Dylan Football, always do a great job. We'll be doing a lot of reflection this week. It's pretty much a bye week, and then we'll be moving on to playoff coverage and going to the postseason. So this month, as always, goes by very quickly. It seems like Christmas is here in like 2 weeks. Every time. I know it's like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something, but yeah, it just goes by really fast. But anyways, where can the people find your stuff? I know you're doing a lot of recruiting updates, obviously.
Hey, we're heading towards early signing day this Wednesday. So definitely look out for a lot of the recruiting stuff. You can follow me over on Patreon, covering all Texas A&M recruiting for basketball and football. Definitely keep a lookout for it. We could have some very interesting stuff coming on the next couple days as we head down the stretch. So really.
Yeah, I was going to say, A&M basketball, 95-59 over Florida State. That was a hell of a game. I am very high on this team right now. I cannot wait till they play Pittsburgh on Tuesday. I think they're kind of finding their stride a little bit, and that's a nice bright spot. I think I hope a lot of Aggie
Pittsburgh
fans
coming off a crazy buzzer beater game, by the way.
Yeah. So, and Florida State played Florida pretty tough this
They
year.
only lost by 2 to Florida. Florida doesn't look as good, but that's neither here nor there. I think
Doesn't matter. Win those games, baby. Just keep winning. You got Pitt, SMU coming up. If they can get those games, we're gonna be talking about A&M in a different light, because I think that they're looking more in sync. They're looking like they kind of understand each other a little more. And man, that shooting, I mean, it kind of dropped off a little in the second half, but Ruben Dominguez is just
he's
an alien. He's an alien. He really is. He is. But anyways, okay, guys, we'll see you next Tuesday. Gig 'em as usual. I know you're going to see this a lot today, but no, gig 'em, screw them. Don't listen to those people. But either way.
See y'all later, guys.